Welcome to the Messy Brilliant Show. I'm Kelly, and I am so excited to be speaking with the incredible Gloria Loring today. So let me tell you a little bit about Gloria if you don't know already. Gloria is an actress, a musician, a singer, a speaker, an author of several books, which we're going to be speaking about one of them today. And just an incredibly wise human being that is transparent with her stories and is really been put on this planet to impart her wisdom and knowledge to all of us. So I'm really excited to speak with her. And I want to tell you just a little bit more about her formal bio before we dive into the interview. She's a singer and a songwriter, actress and author. She's the recording artist of the #1 hit song, Friends and Lovers. She's the co-composer of the television theme songs, Different Strokes and Facts of Life, and an audience favorite for 7 years as Liz Chandler on Days of Our Lives. She's also been a spokesperson for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. She has sung on the Emmy Awards, the American Music Awards, and the Golden Globes. I mean, she really has done everything. Her newest book, titled with the quote from Albert Einstein, is a memoir with a message. Coincidence is God's Way of Remaining Anonymous details a series of extraordinary coincidences that transformed Gloria's life and offers prescriptive insight into how seemingly random occurrences can be used for the good. Ms. Loring has also been presented the Lifetime Commitment Award from JDRF, the Founders Award from the National Disease Research Interchange, and the Woman of Achievement Award from the Miss America organization, an honor she shares with past recipients such as Barbara Bush, Rosalind Carter, and Hillary Clinton. She's also listed in the Who's Who in America and Who's Who in American Music. Her success on stage and in television, no one would suspect the secrets that lay beneath her celebrity status. And that's what I want to get into today. I want to talk about Gloria's experiences and gain that wisdom that we all yearn for so we can move forward and make our lives happen. So let's welcome Gloria. Welcome, everyone, to the Messy Brilliant Show. I'm Kelly, and I am so honored to be speaking with Gloria Loring today. And I've already introduced you, so welcome to our program.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the good work you're doing in the world.
Oh.
What a wonderful mission to be on.
It's been a great pleasure to be the vehicle for it, because I've learned more than I've given back, for sure, Gloria.
Don't you think we always do?
Yes.
When we get something larger than ourselves to work for, that we get so much from it. I know I've seen that in my life again and again.
Yes, definitely. I was just talking with someone about that earlier today. So for our community today, we are all about making our lives happen, and you truly are a testament to that with your life in many ways around really overcoming victimhood, empowering yourself through lots of experiences. Can you give our community just a bit of a summary of where you are now from where you came from? That's a big question. So you can start wherever you like.
I think that if I could sequester some of these ideas in succinct ways, it would be that growing up in a house where there was a lot of love and these were good people, but with problems. My dad was an alcoholic. Both his brothers were alcoholics, and their mother died when they were very, very young, and that filtered down to them, and there was a vulnerability there, obviously. There were things that had happened that shouldn't have happened. I talk about them in my book. And even using the word sexual abuse is a little fraught for me, because from my body remembrance, my actual experience, my father fell into my bed on top of me drunk. I could smell the fumes, and I was 3 at the time. I went back in a kind of hypnotic, trance-like state and opened up these wounds. And there was a learned helplessness that happens when you're not even in charge of your own body as a child. A child should feel that their body is sacrosanct. They really should. And they should hopefully grow up with that sense of themselves as inviolate. And I was not. And the ramifications of that took me a long time to understand. And letting go of that learned helplessness to understand that I could make choices in the moment, to no matter what was going on, that I could make choices to re-empower myself, to decide what was okay for me. Even if I had to do something that I wasn't fond of, I could find a way to feel powerful about it, to know that, okay, this is my choice. It's my dharma.
Right.
Dharma is your righteous duty. I don't like having to do this. Something's been coming up recently, and I wish I didn't, but it's my dharma. There are people in your lives we have to take care of, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going from that learned helplessness to a learned helpfulness, helpful to both yourself and to the people around you.
I love that, the learned helplessness to helpfulness. And I needed to be reminded of that word dharma today too, so thank you. The righteous duty.
I had a dog named Dharma the doggy llama. He was Tibetan Terrier, and we said he had to learn how to do the right thing. And it took him about a year because he was a mess when we got him. But Dharma the doggy llama. Yes.
I love that. That's so Dharma the doggy llama. Good for you. Wow. You speak about, when you said sexual abuse, you speak about that, and it is pretty amazing, the parallels. My dad was an alcoholic. He fell down drunk on me when I was 4, when I was in bed as well. And I went and did hypnotism to rediscover what had happened to me and what had occurred.
Was this block? Yeah.
Because I couldn't remember it. I chose to forget it for years as a defense mechanism. But as you know, that starts hurting you after a while. That defense mechanism of blocking yourself and shutting yourself off.
We act out of that defensive,ness, and we don't understand why we're acting the way we are. We get into relationships where we're helpless. We get into work situations. We find ourselves crying or being in so much pain, and then foisting the pain onto the people around us inappropriately. So it's about finally coming to a point where you can own up to what's going on. And men too, but because I'm a woman, I feel that more strongly. We women need to believe our bodies.
Yes.
That there's stuff buried in there that we at least give it the compassion to listen and try, and maybe get someone to help us listen. What is this terrible pain? I used to get just excruciating stabbing pains in my stomach, and I didn't know what that was. And gradually, as I got out of my first marriage, as I started to own my own sense of self, those pains went away, and I've never had them since. What was that? I don't know. But they were messages for me from my body saying, this is not okay. We're not happy here. So that whole thing of being able to listen to the body and the messages that are in the body and get somebody wise to help you figure it out. Yeah, I think it's
great
important
to have not even a mentor, but just a coach to carry you through, whether it be a therapist, a mentor, a course, something, because, I've been to Sheila Kelly's events to kind of work through some of my sexuality and really come into my power more. And I watch her because of her experience, and she does S Factor, saying your body tells the story of your life. I can see the experiences you had in your body. And every single part of me, though, Gloria, when I first went there, wanted to run from there because it was terrified that it was getting woken up again. So what do you do so you can tune into that? You can tune into the intuition and listen when there's that other piece of the fear that comes up when you're listening to that instead. Because I know a lot of women are listening to the shutdown and fear instead of the signs behind what it means when you have that pain. Is that do you understand?
Yeah. I think the body and the psyche and the spirit, the fear may be there for a good reason. It may be, especially if we're trying to force something. That's why drugs and really difficult relationships, those kinds of intense experiences, can open up a part of us that we may not be ready and capable of handling yet. So we have to be careful that whatever we're doing to ignite that remembrance, that we find ourselves in a compassionate and gentle environment with someone who can really listen and not judge. what is her name? She's so wonderful. The drama of the wounded child. I think that's it. And she talks about if you have a therapist who blames you for your sexual abuse, get out of there immediately.
Right, exactly.
Or says your parent, you can't be mad at your parent. Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Well, you have to honor your father and your mother. No. You can be mad at them. You can forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
You can say they didn't know any better.
Right.
Maybe they abused you, not sexually, but other ways.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know any better. We've all hurt people we didn't mean to hurt.
Right.
But we have to still have someone who listens, who takes our part and says, I hear you. That was really hard. That was really painful for you. That kind of active listening that is so valuable to all of us, to feel somebody has our part of the conversation, that we have someone shoulder to shoulder with it. I think it's so important.
I'm hearing like safety for sure. And having someone, that you can fall into that will create that safe space so that you can start healing as well, like an advocate for you.
Yeah, and it can be very hard because sometimes you'll want to tell a girlfriend, but a girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or whatever may have their own issues,
triggers, right?
And whereas trained person who's trained to know how to stay in a neutral place, a neutral, compassionate listening place, may be better suited to help you get through the most difficult of your expressions of pain.
Right, absolutely. And so I want to go into your book soon, but I have a question regarding this, around where women's voices are right now, and what, with all of the experience you've had and everything you've been through as a musician and as an actress, as a writer and a speaker, and as a woman in this society, where do you think the next step is for women with what's going on with the Me Too campaign and how women are having the courage to now speak out? Where do you think that's going to eventually evolve into for us? And what are your feelings about it in general?
My feelings are wow, because I have been harassed and abused a number of times. There was date rape. There was some stuff that went on that I have not written about, but this is what we're talking about. So there it is. Mm-hmm. The idea, but because of course nobody would believe you, and everybody, and I thought it was my fault because I put myself in a situation. But how did I know this person was going to do that? But we blame ourselves because the woman is Eve and she's got the apple, and whatever. I mean, we're the ones who are at fault just for being women in a space. Right. We're just blamed for that. So the idea that women could be believed and their experience be valued, just starting being valued by each other, yes, and not pushed away because it's too scary. It's too scary to think, well, I could have been in that situation. No, I would never be in that. Must be something wrong with you. So I just think it's extraordinary. And I'm watching this and I'm going, you go, girls.
I know. I don't usually take a lot of political stance because really, in any way, Women for One is for every woman that has the courage, no matter what their beliefs are, as long as they're kind with others and they've learned a lesson. I welcome them to our community because I feel like we need to encourage that conversation. But this one with women speaking out, I am like, go. Like, yes. I'm so happy because for so many years, even in my family, they tried to silence me. Right. So, and that's just
Did you
secret
try
keeping.
to tell them in your family what had happened?
Yes. And it's this secret keeping cycle, I think, of abuse that we all kind of passively agree to, like an unwritten rule in a lot of families, I think. And I'm here to break that cycle this time, and I think a lot of us are.
Yeah. And it's tough because, there are things that men did because they did them out of ignorance, right, out of being taught the wrong thing, mm-hmm, that they could do. So, I mean, short of out and out rape, that they could harass a woman by, taking the towel off and look what I got.
Right.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I
Ew.
don't need to see that,
Right.
And taking their position of power. And of course, then you feel badly. I mean, I saw Hoda. And what's the other lady's name? I can't think of her name. Anyway,
Savannah Guthrie.
Savannah. And I saw them that first morning when they talk, and
Me
you could
too.
just feel the pain because their experience of Matt Lauer was as a friend and a helpmate and a comrade and, companion and all of that. And now they have to address this other side of him that is horrific. It's subtle, and yet it's not subtle, and it just destroys. So it's like a husband cheating on you,
right?
And saying, "Oh yeah, I brought someone home to our bed," and that was never your experience, and it just destroys all the trust, and that's really I feel sorry for him, and isn't that funny? I feel sorry for him that he so little realized what he was doing, that he didn't understand that it wasn't just about his need for power and expression of sexuality as a power, etc., that he couldn't extend himself to what that woman how dirty and ugly and awful that woman must be.
He couldn't even envision what the experience.
The only thing I'm good for is sex, and I'm not good to do my job. The only reason I'm here is because this guy thinks I'm attractive and some. I mean, it's awful. I carried that burden for so long. And I never was in a work situation, but I was I had a thing that happened once. It was so out of the blue. I had a beautiful coat on, and I was on Park Avenue, and I went into I walked by this shoe store with these gorgeous shoes, and I went in and I was looking, and I was like, oh my God, these are like $300 shoes. And I tried a couple on. I was like, oh, I don't really need them. And the owner was there, this older man, and I went to leave, and he said, oh, you're not going to buy anything. He said, whatever. And we talked for a minute, and he said, well, thank you for coming in the store. And he slipped his hands under my coat and ran them up and down my back, down around my butt. And I completely freeze. I get chills with the evil of it. It felt evil.
And
it
dark,
felt
yeah.
that invasion of myself. And how dare he think he could do that to me? But I completely froze, and I just wanted to get out of there as quick. What am I going to do? He didn't rape me. He did, what do I yell? Right. Hands on my back, But it was
awful, and it was dark.
He could take that license with me and feel that it was okay. And I was like Gloria Loring, the celebrity person, and he felt he could do that to me. Like I was some chippy off the street and had no rights of my own and no presence of my own. And it harms your sense of self. You feel so vulnerable.
But I think even more importantly, it also shuts down our voices, and then we beat ourselves up for it. I see all these women saying, I should have done something. I froze. I didn't do that. I didn't do anything. And it's like, wait a minute. Let's step back, because we have all frozen in those moments. And it's in confusion. It's in fear. It's in shock. Right?
Shock.
I mean, wouldn't a man do the same thing? He'd freeze if something happened like that, right? I mean...
Yeah. I mean, suppose that had been a man and he walked up and cupped his hands around his
junk.
He'd probably back up and say,
dude,
excuse me, and get out of there. Just, you want to get out of there. It's so ugly and it's so nasty and such a violation. You just want to get out of there.
Right.
As far from the source as possible.
But I do want to get back to what you said about feeling sorry for Matt. I feel a lot of compassion for what's going on with the men. I have a deep understanding and empathy and compassion for the women. But what's going on with the men, it's a societal problem that we need to address. It's not just, it's his fault. It's his unconsciousness and his unawareness. Yes. I'm not saying it's not his fault, but I do have compassion in our society where that's been forgiven. And so I think,
and we can forgive and still not say that what happened was okay.
I love that.
We can do that. We can have compassion that someone knew. So we can even have compassion for a murderer. We can have compassion that they forgot that was a human being that was facing them with a life, with a family who loved them. We can forgive that and still not excuse
exactly
aggression in that moment.
Yes. So yes, I just wanted to get your take on where we are with that, because I believe we're so similar in some of the experiences we've had, and I completely agree with what you're saying. So I'd like to go into your book, Coincidence is God's Way of Remaining Anonymous. And I have a quote that I found that I really liked. It's called, you said, "In truth, I wasn't a victim. I was a volunteer. Coincidence gave me an experience of the lesson I needed to learn. You don't have to wait for someone to save you." This is a huge lesson for me, and we're just talking about it. So I wanted to dive into this book and why you decided to write this and how it has helped people.
Well, it happened because the very first chapter, I talk about how I raised $1 million for diabetes research. After I made a promise to my son, he said, "When is my diabetes going to be over?" And I said, "My shot's going to be over." And I said, "Honey, I don't know, but I'm working on it." And I thought, I need to do something. And of course, the logical thing was to raise money for research, to try to find answers. And a series of very fascinating coincidences happened that led me to the person who helped me do the Days of Our Lives cookbook that raised $1 million for diabetes research. And I was doing an interview with someone like yourself, and I mentioned we did the whole story about how we raised the $1 million. And I said, "Isn't that an amazing coincidence?" And he said, "Yes, but you know, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous." And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I got to write coincidence is what? God's way of what? Remaining in coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. What does that mean? But I couldn't get it out of my head. And it kept, every time there was a coincidence of some sort, I would remember that quote. So as the years went on and these coincidences kind of stacked up, they kept leading me toward healing and leading me toward learning how to take ownership of my own self, my body, myself, my spirit. I decided that I wanted to write a book, but I wanted to understand. So I read books on physics. I read
like
books
synchronicity and all that you read about, like possibility.
I read books on quantum physics, because it's Albert Einstein who said coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And I was fascinated that Albert was talking about God. Of course, he did believe in not a personal expression, but in a power, a presence, an intelligence that had created the universe, which we know is active in the universe. But I wanted to know more, and it took me about 10 years to do all my research, and because I kept thinking, who am I to write this book? But I just thought, I have to tell my story, and if it's helpful to people, and I've heard back that it has been helpful, and that there are people who kind of keep it next to their bed and flip to different chapters to read something again. And I think that's such an honor to be of value to other people in their lives and help them open up their own sense of self.
That's wonderful. And you are very transparent about your story, and you go and you speak to a lot of different audiences about your experiences and your story. And I love some of the names of your talks. They're just incredible. You went lessons from a soap opera, how to drop the drama, expect a miracle, which I want to talk about miracles in a second. And, I did, and here's how, and a whole nother way to be a woman, living from your thighs on up. Where'd you come up with these incredible titles? And I mean, is your favorite thing to speak to people, or what's your favorite thing other than music, obviously?
I do love to talk with people. I love to share my story. I love to hear people laugh. I love to move their hearts. It's been a great addition to my life as a singer and an actress. And to be able to go out and share what I've been given. And, when I think of, it's amazing to me, the scope of my journey, from the girl who went out on the road by herself with her music at 18, that used to do math problems in between my shows. I loved math, and I would sit and do math problems in between my performances. And I was traveling to these little clubs in Alabama and Chicago and Atlanta, and all by myself, because my family had broken up and there was no money for me to live on my own, so I had to go to work and take care of myself. And when I think of who I was so unconscious and about everything, and got myself into all kinds of close calls, but I made it. And when I think of where I am now and how peaceful and centered my life is, It's a miracle. It is a miracle. There it is.
It is a miracle. And you've come from, and you talk about that, the moving from that victimhood, right, into empowerment. You talk about that in the book. It seems like it runs through every aspect of your being. I mean, to start out 18 alone, going to these, and being where you are now. I mean, that's just, when I speak with you, when I look at you, I feel this pure essence of being. It's just like, I just want to talk to you forever and get all your wisdom and knowledge. I'm not kidding, because I'm still raising children and dealing with late teens and early 20s. And I'm kind of in this mode of like still trying to, balance and peace. And there's a lot of women like that. Would you give us some advice, please, how to achieve that balance and peace other than presence and breathing?
Well, I think it's that we know more than we give ourselves credit for. Mm. There is a presence within us, an intelligence, a wisdom. And very often we have to calm down and quiet down and sit with what's going on, mm-hmm. and watch the back and forth. And, no, I can't do that. Oh, I have to do this. No, but I can't do that. And I have to do this. And I call it the pendulum swing, until the pendulum gets quieter. I would recommend for people who want to learn how to access the benefits of meditation, meditation is just letting the mind quiet down, mm-hmm. so we can move into our greater self. There's a book called The Heart Math Solution, Heart Math, M-A-T-H, Solution. And they teach this all over the nation in North America, and it helps people access their own inner wisdom. And they're short forms of meditation, minute long, 2 minute long, and they work. They teach them to people in high stress jobs like first responders and nurses in hospitals, and they're able to find center again, because stuff rattles us, and especially if there's been any trauma. Trauma is something that we don't have the ability to process, and it stays with us, and it keeps hitting us upside the head. But there is a greater self inside that is wide enough to hold all these experiences. There's a part of ourselves that was never damaged, that was never hurt, that was never diminished by anything, mm-hmm. that happened to us. And if we can come back to that sense of self and find that within ourselves, and we have to get out of the current mind sometimes, out of the yes, but we need to just quiet down. I have a meditation practice in this room I'm speaking to you from every morning, and I just try. I don't succeed to quiet my mind down, but I make the attempt. I sit and I do some chanting, and I read something uplifting, even reading something uplifting every morning, something that reminds you that you are connected to the wisdom of the universe, to the intelligence of the universe. You were created in its image. All the great scriptures tell us we were created in its image. So we have access to that within ourselves. And if we can find our own particular conduit to that wisdom, whatever works for you. It could be walking in nature. It could be meditation. It could be a heart math solution technique like freeze frame. It could be a friend of yours that you can talk to and who listens in silence and in compassion, that helps you hear what you're saying and understand the depth of both your pain and the possibility of coming out of pain. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, but it is here, and it is here for us, and it never goes away.
I love that. It just made me think of all the ways I try to meditate, and it doesn't have to be one way.
No.
I go for silent hikes, and mm-hmm. I just picked up Pablo Neruda's and Mary Oliver's new poetry. Like, poetry does that for me sometimes. Just to read a page or two, it just calms my mind and helps me reassociate with my core essence.
To focus on beauty. Music, it can be a piece of music, and you just close your eyes and let yourself completely be carried out of the chit-chat of the mind, mm-hmm. into a place of beauty and peace and truthfulness. And it's all there for us.
That's awesome. And you talked about heart math. Deb Rosman is a truth teller for Women for One. So we have spoken. I've interviewed her about heart math before. So I love that you practice that as well. That's so great.
Oh yeah, no. For heart math, I took the whole course. I took the online course, and it was just an adjunct to everything else I was doing. I've been meditating now since 1989, and it's just helped me so much. When things get too tough, I know where to go. I know to sit, and that an answer will come. An answer will be given. It
will be given, definitely. So let's just talk about miracles for the last question. It's a great last question. How do you define a miracle?
Okay. A miracle is something beyond our present sense of knowing. It's as if it works at a level like the supra consciousness sort of thing. It works at a level that we haven't yet reached yet. It probably makes sense in some way in quantum physics or a great spiritual being, the way they think. But for us, we go, wow, that was just miraculous that so-and-so, just when I needed it, stepped in. Mm-hmm. And that's the great thing is I'll tell you a story that'll tell you about a miracle. This friend of mine that I was involved with, she was my manager. She was my dear friend for 10 years, and she had horrendous stuff go on. And she had a pancreatitis for 10 years or 8 years. And then she got stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Mm. And we were trying to make some mental accommodation for what would happen when she couldn't work anymore and what would she do and this and that. And I said to her at one point, she said, there's just no hope. And I said, no, wait, at any moment, everything could change. And I got her to my Ayurvedic doctor, who was from India and uses herbs and diet. And she started to do okay. All of a sudden, she wasn't in the hospital anymore. Mm-hmm. And 5 months went by, and they did an MRI, called an MRCP, of her pancreas. And we were thinking that they were going to say, now you're going to have this major surgery, and you're going to be out of commission for 6 months. But she hadn't been in the hospital for 5 months. Wow. And she called me that afternoon, and she was saying, I'm not going to be able to work. I'm going to be in bed for 6 months. I said, wait, remember, anything can change. Right. Anything can change. She called me back. The tumor on her pancreas was completely gone.
Wow.
It had disappeared. It was an adenocarcinoma. It was not there anymore. And the people at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles had absolutely no account for how that could have happened. It was they thought it was spontaneous. Well, we knew that she'd been on this program with this doctor and herbs and, the things. But in that moment, you never know. You're on the edge of that cliff in some way, and someone can say something, someone can show up, something can show up, and everything changes in that moment.
That's so beautiful.
And so we have to have our life with hope.
What strikes me about that. Oh, so go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say the last thing my sister said in the hour before she died was 5 years ago. Mm. She said, Gloria, you must tell them. And I said, what, honey? What must I tell them? And she said, you must tell them when you go to Washington. And I thought, Washington, the seat of power? What does that mean? Because she was on morphine,
Yeah.
And kind of what's the code here? She said, you must tell them there is hope. Mm-hmm. She died 1 hour later. Mm-hmm. You must tell them there is hope. So there it is.
That's so beautiful. And I think what strikes me about you saying the word hope and you telling your friend that, and that your sister telling you that, is you held hope for her. Because a lot of people believe we have to believe in miracles to create one. And the woman was terrified, right? She thought she was going to find out, but you held that hope. So we can hold hope for ourselves and others, wouldn't you say? Definitely.
I think we can. And we can know that life is not just about being in this body. I believe that life goes on. We know life goes on. Yes. That life recycles and regenerates. So who's to say? I've done lots of reading about near-death experience and all of that. And, who's to say that we don't go on in some form?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. So where can everyone find you? And what are you working on now?
Working on some new music, just enjoying my family. I worked for 50 years. I started in my teens, and I'm like, it's okay if I don't work all the time now. It's fine. So we were over skiing with my grandson and my son yesterday, and we're just having a good time. But I am working on new music. My website is glorialoring.com. My book, Coincidence is God's Way of Remaining Anonymous, which really gives you some ideas for how you can use coincidence for your good and the good of those you love. And that's available on Amazon and I think Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
And CDs are on the website and on iTunes and all of that good stuff. So.
Well, I'm so honored to know you, and this has been such an incredible conversation that I'm sure my community will love. So thank you so much for your time and for the service you've given to women and men throughout your life.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing. I think it's so wonderful to have a one-pointed focus and have a mission like you're on.
Thank you. Okay, bye, everyone.
Take care.